Hi there. I'd like to talk to you about Joe Morris and his time at Saratoga. No, not the racetrack, though that might be interesting to talk about someday, but the battles. What battles? The two of them were a major turning point in the American Revolution. The Battle of Saratoga interests me for two reasons. My neighbor Joe, now his tavern is still standing just over there. He had a starring role in it, and even more surprisingly, the battle shows how in 1777 they had an understanding of the big picture, including who was going to control a major highway. Highway? What highways? We're talking the American Revolution, aren't we? Well, there was one that went from New York City all the way to Canada. It used a river and some pretty big lakes, including Lake Champlain. I bet you if you live in the Big Apple, you don't know that. One British army invaded from Canada. Now, they easily captured the fort at the southern end of Lake Ticonderoga and hoped to join up with other British forces. But that didn't happen, so their 7,000 men became outnumbered when George Washington assembled his troops to stop them. After two brutal battles, the entire British army surrendered. So is the lesson to always have overwhelming strength on your side? No. It is to do as Napoleon would later do so well. Divide, then conquer. Napoleon, the self-crowned emperor, was often outnumbered, but he whipped his enemies one at a time, at least until Waterloo. There, Wellington held the British army intact until the Prussians could join him. In the American Revolution, the British wanted to separate New England from the rest of the states. But the Americans wouldn't let them do that. You should think and act like that. When confronted with a problem, break it into pieces, concentrate on them one at a time. Deal with each, then move to the next. As Matt Damon said, as Mark Watney said in The Martian, work the problem. And by the way, after the Battle of Saratoga, the French king, Louis XVI, decided to support the Americans against the British. Now, this was a big deal. He provided money, naval support, soldiers for 6 years to help give birth to a new nation under God, dedicated to the proposition that all men and women are created equal. And another, by the way, an aggressive 36-year-old Benedict Arnold had just been passed over for promotion to Major General. Apparently, there were already 4 of them from Connecticut. Still, he went to Saratoga. He fought. He was one of the heroes on the battlefield. And the commanding general refused to tell Congress. And this is some reward for Arnold because he was horribly wounded. His left leg wound up being 2 inches shorter. Now that's sad, but there's worse, because he's mostly remembered for trying to give West Point to the British. And the last, by the way, at Saratoga, Major Morris rode his horse through the British lines under a hail of lead. He was a member of the famous Morgan's Rifles and was described as never so sprightly as under a hot fire. His grave is lost, as is the lead musket ball that killed him a year later. I am Mike for the Be More Better team. Thank you for watching. We appreciate it. We really appreciate it. Please tell us what you think of these. Subscribe if you haven't. But always, always be more better. Body, mind, and spirit. And then be even more better when you help someone else divide and conquer their demons. And now a shout out to all those brave men and women who put their bodies on the line. This has been a pleasure. Until the next one. Bye now. Major Joseph Morris had a starring role in those battles, and even more blah. It used a chain of Major Morris rode his horse through the British ranks in under a hail of lead.